Facebook viewers, live on the level. We had a fabulous first guest speaker with Michaela Burton. I hope you saw that. If not, that'll be on the video. We're here live in Oadby, Leicestershire, and we're ready for our next guest speaker. Now, all I would say is imagine with your own balance condition that you are at home and you're having a very bad day. Balance is not good. You're with it. You've probably got that foggy feeling in your brain. Imagine having all that, and then you've got to go into a radio studio, host a program, and do the odd live interview. And while you're interviewing, be getting ready to tee up the next segment of your show. Well, here is a lady that's going to talk to you does just that. Rupal Rajani, BBC Radio Leicester host, programme host, Midlands Today, and I'm going to shut up now and let her tell you all about her career and life with a balance condition. Thank you very much.
As Michaela mentioned, I'm that person that walks around with a water bottle in my hand wherever I go, because I do get those panic attacks and those nerves do kick in, but I can do it. She tells me I can do it, so I'm going to do it. I've been in radio for about 30 odd years now, and the first time that this happened to me was actually me driving into work. Most people think when you're on the radio, it's literally you just go on air and you talk, you play a few records, and that's about it really. But there's a little bit more to it. If you've ever been to a radio station, or if it's something that you've tried out yourself, then you'll know, like any other job, there's plenty of preparation that's needed. There's interviews to be done. There are people talking to you in your headphones at the same time whilst you're trying to concentrate, and then to deal with having a balance condition and feeling dizzy and trying to concentrate, trying to make sure that you sound like you know what you're talking about, and you're focused and you're entertaining, can be really difficult. And it's happened to me on a number of occasions. My experience of vestibulopathy with visual preference started about 10 years ago, in fact. And I was driving to work, and suddenly I had sort of numbness and tingling on my face, and I couldn't remember what was going on. I couldn't work out what was going on. I had no idea, and I started to panic, and I started to freak out. And I got to work, and I thought, I'll be fine, I'll be fine, I'll be fine. I've never in my life had a panic attack. And I got to work, I was okay for a bit, but this tingling and this numbing along my face and this dizziness was there for most of the morning as I was preparing for my programme, and it got progressively worse. I'm thinking, who do I tell? What do I say? Do I say something to my bosses, or do I just carry on and hope that it will just go away? And I think I did carry on that day with my programme, but felt very poorly when I finished. I've no idea how I managed to do it for 3 hours. I was presenting the lunchtime show on a daily basis for Monday to Friday for a very long time. So I was terrified. I was scared, as anyone with a balance condition knows what that feels like. I also remember another occasion, and it was pretty much at the beginning of this. I was sat at home. It was a Saturday evening, and I love my snacks of an evening, as a lot of us do, watching the telly. And I thought, bag of crisps. I'm going to eat a bag of crisps. I wasn't married then. So Richard over here was at home. He was at his house. I was at home watching telly, eating my bag of crisps, and suddenly started getting a panic attack. And that was the very, very first time I think I ever had a panic attack. I couldn't swallow. I couldn't breathe. And I thought this crisp had caused it, and it got stuck in my throat. And because I was on my own, I just didn't know what to do with myself. I thought I was having an asthma attack. And I called up the doctor's surgery at the time, the emergency number for the doctors, and I said, I think I'm having an asthma attack, and it was about midnight. And they called. They said, "You're asthmatic, fine. We'll get you. We'll get you to the hospital." So they called me a taxi. I went to the hospital. They had a look down my throat, and the doctor, slightly annoyed at me, clearly for waking him up at 2 o'clock in the morning, whatever time it was, looked at my throat and said, "Yeah, you've got a throat infection. You've got a throat infection," and literally chucked a bag of a box of antibiotics in my face and told me to leave. And I went back home and spent the rest of the evening just terrified, just not knowing what to do. And from that day forward, I have been carrying a bottle of water with me everywhere I go, because it's my little safety net. It's my way of being able to breathe. It's my way of being able to swallow. And it wasn't for probably, I don't know, months later that I realised what I was having was a panic attack with the dizziness, because I was really confused. I didn't know what was going on. I didn't know how to explain this to somebody else, because, you know, people think, oh yeah, is it vertigo? Is it vertigo? It's a bit more than just vertigo, isn't it? For all of us here, and everybody watching on Facebook knows, it's a little bit more than just vertigo. It took months to be diagnosed. I went to my GP. My GP said to me, it's stress. Have 2 months off. All right, I had 2 months off. And knowing that I'm on air on a daily basis, in quite a stressful environment where you have to be on top form, 2 months was a long time to be off work. That stretched out to about 8 months in the end. I was off work. Obviously things change at work. I didn't have my program anymore. My bosses at the time were amazing. She was really, really supportive. But I had to go privately in the end to get myself diagnosed, because as we know, the NHS don't have the funding to get you in quick enough to find out what's wrong with you. So we did have to go privately. And the first time I walked in to the London Road Clinic, I walked in with my husband, and I was a little bit anxious, a little bit nervous, and I think, you know, as we all are, thinking, well, is anybody actually going to tell me what's wrong with me? I think that's the hardest bit, isn't it? Is not knowing what's wrong with you. Because once you know, you feel a little calmer. You know that you can then do something about it. I had all the tests and had a chat with Professor Ray, and he said, I know what you've got. I went, go on, tell me. You know, as you do, cynically, yeah, go on then, tell me. And he said, you've got something called vestibulopathy with visual preference. I'm like, what? I couldn't pronounce it. It took me a very long time to be able to pronounce it. So it's vestibulopathy with visual preference. He went on to explain what it was. It didn't sink in. He said, I want you to see our vestibular physiotherapist. And I walked into Andrew's office at the time, Andrew Clements, who you saw last time. And then he explained, yeah, it's to do with the brain. It's, for those of you know that have vestibulopathy with visual preference, damage to my inner ear, which has then affected my vision. And Michaela sat at the back, so I better get this right in some shape or form. I don't know all the technical words, but your brain is trying to compensate through your vision. Is that right? Yeah? So that's what I was doing. So my world was moving around me even though I wasn't. And that was scary. If people walked past you, it's the strangest feeling. I've never been good on a boat. Never. I've always felt seasick. And it's like being constantly seasick on land with both feet firmly on the floor. That's what it feels like. The first time I got into the car and I thought, I'll drive. I'll be all right. And I was parked up. And there was a car next to me. The engine was on, but there was a car next to me that was just pulling out. And I suddenly thought, I felt like I was going backwards. I was like, the strangest sensation. It was like I'm swaying. What's going on here? And to try and describe that to somebody else who doesn't experience it is really difficult. And I can see lots of people nodding because we're all going, yep, I know that feeling, I know how that feels. Yeah. And for a long time, I couldn't get into the shower. We had a bathtub and the shower was inside the bathtub, so you had to get in. That was hard work. That was scary, trying to get a shower every morning. So for days I would have to build myself up to get into the shower. My husband would be working, so he'd be off by 9:15. So I'm stressing, thinking, what am I going to do for the rest of the day? I can't go out. I can't go out. I literally couldn't go out and walk out the front door. And for a long time, that's what it was like. I got into a pattern of, I've got to get dressed, I've got to get showered, I've got to get ready before Richard leaves, so that at least I'm dressed. And I think, like Michaela was talking about earlier, it's about having little goals. So I would set myself little goals every day about, what I could do next. I could do that bit, right, that bit's done. And just going incidentally about the shower, we've only just had the bathroom redone, and now we've got a walk-in shower. And you know what? The freedom, honestly, the freedom is unbelievable. Because now we can go to work and I don't care. I really don't. I can sit in my PJs all day because I can go and have a shower whenever I want, And just to be able to do that is wonderful. It genuinely is. So there were all sorts of challenges, The second time it came back with a vengeance, the vestibulopathy was about 4 years ago. Went back to the doctors. They've said you've got labyrinthitis. And I went, no, I haven't. I know what it is. Can you refer me to the ENT clinic? No, it'll go away. Give it 7 weeks. 7 weeks for labyrinthitis normally, and you'll be fine. So I waited 7 weeks. It didn't go away. And I don't know for what reason, but it hit me a lot harder. Even though I'd experienced it before, I was able to go back to normal, inverted commas, life. It hit me a lot harder the second time round. I was more fearful. I was more anxious. I was more worried. I was stressing about work. Stressing about what other people thought. Hating myself because I knew the answers. I knew what to do, but I wasn't doing them. I wasn't being kind to myself. I was really quite frustrated. And I think we all do that, don't we, when we're in a situation where we feel like we don't have control. And it took, and it's taken a long time. It's taken 4 years to kind of be at this stage where at certain places I can walk without my stick. I can talk to people. I can not worry about what other people think. I don't care, because they're not going through it. It's all the things that Michaela was talking about. And speaking to Michaela on a monthly, 2-monthly basis, has been amazing. Just to have someone to sound off to and go, do you know what? I haven't been to the cinema for years. How many of you have been to the cinema, or wanted to go to the cinema and not been able to because you're a little bit panicked, you're a little bit worried because the screen is huge and the sound is unbearable. Yeah? And it's awful because everyone's talking about, you know, oh, I went to see this film last night, did you really? I don't really care. You do, don't you? You do, don't you? Because you're thinking, well, I can't do that right now. Can't do it. Don't tell me about your life. I'm not interested because I can't do it right now. But I can tell you now, I've been to the cinema twice in the last 4 years. Twice I've been to the cinema. Okay, it wasn't the biggest screen ever. It was a smaller screen. We waited until, you know, the film was nearly at the end of its run. But I went to the cinema and I can't tell you how good that felt. You know, it was massive. What did we see? Queen. We saw the Queen film. Boy, that was loud. But I did it. It was good, wasn't it? And we went to see, the Mamma Mia film, the second one of that, which was great. Interestingly, both musical, both loud. Yeah, so visually, for your ears, all of that, for all the senses. Proper challenge they were. But we did it. I did it. More recently, the most exciting thing I did was go shopping. Don't laugh. Shopping is a big thing. Supermarkets, you know, if you've got a balance condition, supermarkets are a huge challenge. And going shop, my thing now, shopping, trolley. Trolley, really important. Yeah? Grab a trolley. If it's the last one, pull it off somebody else so that you can... No, don't do that. Really don't do that. But trolleys are so vital in a supermarket to help you with your balance so nobody can tell you've got a balance condition. It's brilliant. I've been into supermarkets wearing sunglasses. I don't know how many of you have done that because the bright lights and the motion and the shelves. Gosh, there's hundreds of them with stuff on it. Yes, sunglasses in a supermarket on a really wet, windy, miserable day. And people look at you and think, what's wrong with you? It's got to be done, right? Because you can get in there at least. So now I've discovered anti-glare. So these glasses are anti-glare, which make a massive difference to me. They're a bit more expensive, but anti-glare works. I've still got my sunglasses in my handbag if I ever need them. But now I look more intelligent, or that's the plan anyway. So life has so many challenges. Just going back to the shopping, I did this recently. Not only do I sort of present on radio, people ask me to host things as well, you know, award ceremonies and things like that. And for the last 3 years, I've probably managed one each year, which for me has been a challenge also. So getting up in front of people, you know, getting up on a stage. How am I going to do steps? Do I take my stick? You know, I don't want to take my stick. You're supposed to be all dressed up and look fancy, and then I'm going to go up, you know, and I'm going to walk up there with a stick. It's those little daft things that you say to yourself. What will people think? Who cares? Is my response now. Who cares? They've not a clue what you're going through, or how you feel, or how it makes you feel. My biggest challenge, I was so chuffed, was going to Beaumont Leys. So hosting events, I was looking for an outfit. I hate dressing up, can I just say? So when people ask me to host things, it's stressful because I've got to find a new outfit. My husband will tell you I'll be on the internet for weeks. I thought I'll try internet shopping. The only problem is you get things home, they arrive, they don't fit, they don't look right. So you've got the faff of taking them back. So the other option is, well, yeah, my option is I've got to go in. I'm going to do it. I am going to go in, and I went in to a supermarket where they're escalators, but without the steps. And so I didn't have my stick with me. I purposely left my stick in the car. And this was my challenge to myself. And this was only months ago I did this. I thought, right, I'm going to do this. It's daytime. Husband's at work. Best friend's not is at home. I'm going to do this. I had to talk myself through it. I am going to go up those escalators. And you know, the best feeling ever was when I did it. I went up them. The hardest was coming down them. And I actually decided I was going to film it on my phone at the same time. How brave am I, Michaela? She's smiling. And I did it. I did it. I waited until nobody was behind me. Nobody was in front of me. I think maybe there was one person in front of me. My camera in one hand. The other hand held tightly onto the rail. It's fine, it's okay. And the escalator's going down really slowly. Like, when you're fine, you're fine. Concentrate on the filming. So it was a distraction form. I was concentrating so much on the filming that I didn't realise that I was there at the bottom. It was brilliant. So those are my little achievements 4 years later. I unfortunately had to leave my job because having 3 years off work just really wasn't very practical. And what they were offering me as an alternative just wasn't what I could cope with. But you know what? The stress of not worrying about going back to work full time made me feel better almost instantly. I felt 50%, maybe 60% better instantly. Now, it's not practical for everybody, I know that. And there was a lot that we talked about before we did it, because financially it's not always the easiest thing to do. But the day I decided I was going to resign, the following day, the manager actually emailed me and said, "Do you want to do some freelance work? Doing what you were doing before, presenting a programme." So that's what I'm doing now. I'm once a week, regularly on a Saturday, presenting a programme on BBC Radio Leicester. And as and when they ask me or they need me, I'm able to do that. And if I'm not, I can say, "No, thank you, I'm not up to it today." But it was probably one of the best things I did, because the stress has gone, the pressure is off, and I'm able to now pick and choose what I do and when I do it. So if I don't feel too good, I don't do it. I can choose to do that. What I would say, because I don't want to ramble on for any much longer, but what I would say is don't give up. Genuinely, I am so much better than I was 4 years ago. I was so much better than I was 9 years ago. I still have moments where, I will take my walking stick through the city centre because it's big. You know, there's lots of open spaces like Jubilee Square, which is, for me, massive. I'm not going to try the High Cross Bridge that goes over the... Forget it. It's not happening anytime soon. I'm not doing it yet. I will in the future, but it's not happening just yet. But it's those small goals that I try and aim for. Thanks to people like Michaela, to Peter Ray, to Andrew, and to others, the counselling that I've had. Instead of, I'm going to try and say this without getting it wrong, catastrophizing, because that was my biggest thing, the smallest of issues, and it was huge, it was massive, because that's how you feel. I'm never going to get over this, But you know what? You will. You might not think it right now. You might not believe it right now. But you really, really will. So please don't give up. I'm going to leave it there. Thank you.
Brilliant. Thank you very much. We're still on the Facebook. Before you escape running away, do we have questions from the audience? Any questions? No?
Yes.
Yes.
Do you eat crisps?
Do you eat crisps?
I think my husband might answer that. Do I still eat crisps?
Too many.
There you go. I do.
So thanks ever so much. Rupal, by the way, will be happy to be videoing your stories, and you can see what a great interviewer she's going to be with you. And thanks for sharing that story, because it's inspirational. Thanks very much. So bye to everyone on Facebook. We'll see you December the 7th, next meeting. Thanks for joining us. Thank you.